You are watching The World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bava. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. Israel's Prime Minister has responded with fury to the news that he might face an arrest warrant for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Meanwhile, the United States President Joe Biden criticizes the ICC's decision to seek arrest warrants for Mr. Netanyahu as well as his Minister of Defense. Israel has denied involvement in the death of the Iranian president in a helicopter crash that also killed several officials of his entourage. Meanwhile, the Iranian state media is reporting that the helicopter crash was caused by an unspecified technical failure with the vehicle. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has been given permission to have a full appeal over his extradition to the United States after arguing at London's High Court that he might not be able to rely on his right to free speech at a US trial. China has sharply criticized the inaugural address of the new Taiwan president, Lai Ching-te, an early indication that he will likely have a rocky relationship with Beijing. The former United States President Donald Trump's ex-lawyer and fixer-turned-foe, Michael Cohen, returned to the witness stand and admitted to stealing tens of thousands as the hush money trial inches towards its final stages. Well, our big focus. The International Criminal Court is seeking arrest warrants against both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar in connection with the October 7th attacks and the Gaza war. The ICC statement does not accuse Israel and Hamas leaders of identical crimes, though there are some overlaps. Across the Atlantic, though, the United States President Joe Biden has called the ICC's application for arrest warrants for Israeli leaders outrageous. But unlike all of the European Union's member countries, the United States is not a full member of the ICC. But the ICC's move follows a separate case currently being heard by a different court, the International Court of Justice, of accusations brought by South Africa that Israel is committing genocide in its response to last October's attack. Israel, as you know, strenuously denies the allegation. But where to now? Well, Mohammad Ghazali will be joining us for the latest updates. He's with us at the moment. Ghazali, the request for warrants will now be assessed by the pre-trial chamber of the ICC. Take our viewers through what's next.
See, the first thing is that this Karim Khan, the ICC prosecutor, has applied for a warrant. Once the judges will realize that perhaps this demand is legitimate or it has the weight, it will issue the warrant, and after which the accused will have to sort of present himself before the trial court. Now, why this all development is very significant, because as you were mentioning, that Israel has been accused of starvation, causing great suffering, willful killing or murder, directing attacks against a civilian population, crime against humanity of extermination and murder, as well as persecution and other inhumane acts, while Hamas leaders have been accused of different crimes, which also includes murder or taking hostages as a war crime, and also very important, which make a lot of fury, was rape and other acts of sexual violence. Now, why this is very significant? Because all this while, as you mentioned, the United States have often said that they will have a kind of ironclad support for Israel. They have been arming them, they have been giving them military aid as well. But when it comes to for the first time, the leader of the state in Israel has been dragged to ICC as an accused, or even an arrest warrant has been pursued against him. So that makes it, and it's not just Mr. Netanyahu, but his defense minister Yoav Gallant as well. And moments after this report came out, where Mr. Karim Khan was quoted saying this, Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, also went to the media saying that we are going to broaden the horizon of our Rafah scam, or the Operation Rafah will be widened now. This entire issue has come up once the Israeli army or the Israeli government decided that they will go into Rafah with their ground invasion, despite all the caution and warning from the United States. And till now, even the close allies have now started opening up to say that what ICC has decided, or what Mr. Karim Khan is pursuing in the ICC, should go to its logical end. Even Belgium, even Germany, and many other countries have now come out supporting this arrest warrant, which will be pursued by Mr. Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor. So it will have to be seen in a very different light now, because all this while many European countries and allies of Israel have been supporting them throughout since the war broke out. But now, amid pressure from United States of not going into Rafah, but Mr. Joe Biden yesterday saying that it is outrageous that you can't compare Hamas and Israel. Now it seems that besides war front in Gaza Strip, Israel will also have to sort of face diplomatic isolation, because many countries which had been supporting it initially or since last year the war broke out, now they are also voicing opinion that Israel should face the law in the International Criminal Court.
As always, Ghazali, thank you so much for joining us with the latest details. We have reactions lined up for you from the Israel Prime Minister as well as the US President. The US President has clearly said he's criticized the ICC's decision and called it outrageous. Listen in.
The outrageous decision by the ICC prosecutor, Karim Khan, to seek arrest warrants against the democratically elected leaders of Israel is a moral outrage of historic proportions. It will cast an everlasting mark of shame on the International Court.
And let me be clear. We reject the ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders. Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. And it's clear Israel wants to do all it can to ensure civilian protection. But let me be clear. Contrary to allegations against Israel made by the International Court of Justice, what's happening is not genocide. We reject that.
Well, let's turn our attention now to the United Kingdom, where the British Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, he's considering restrictions to the UK's post-study visa. An Indian Students' Union has now urged Mr. Sunak to protect the graduate route visa program. The National Indian Students and Alumni Union UK, the representative body of Indian students and alumni in the UK, has issued an appeal to the Prime Minister urging the government in the UK to safeguard the graduate route. This call comes after the Migration Advisory Committee recently found no evidence of abuse of the graduate route and recommended its retention as far as its current form is concerned. Meanwhile, according to the Observer newspaper, Mr. Sunak is facing a cabinet revolt over plans to scrap the graduate route scheme, the definitive factor for choosing UK universities among Indian students who have topped the tally of these post-study visas since it was launched back in 2021. Let's get you the latest update from Iran now, where the state media is reporting that the helicopter crash was actually caused by an unspecified technical failure. In fact, the helicopter that crashed, killing the Iranian president, Ibrahim Raisi, and the foreign minister, either did not have a transponder fitted or it had turned it off. This is what an initial investigation by the Turkish rescue group that found the wreckage has revealed. In fact, the Turkish transport minister had told reporters that on hearing the news of the crash, Turkish authorities had checked for a signal from the helicopter's transponder that broadcasts height and location information. It's also emerged that the Iranian government had been urged in a memo by officials to purchase 2 Russian helicopters for its leaders specifically, amid concerns over the maintenance of its fleet of aging helicopters. But who is the man set to become Iran's interim president? Well, we'll take a deep dive into that. But first, let's go across to my colleague Mohammad Ghazali, who joins us for a live update. 5 days of mourning have been announced, with the president's funeral to be held today when the whole country would be closed. India, as you know, has declared a one-day state mourning. But Ghazali, an election for Ibrahim Raisi's successor is expected at the end of June?
Yes, the dates have been announced. The elections will be by 28th of June, and a high-level probe has been ordered into what went wrong with the helicopter in which the President, Mr. Ibrahim Raisi, and Hossein Abdullahian, the Foreign Minister, were traveling, and what were the circumstances under which it developed the technical snag. Now, that is one thing that most of the pro-government voices are not openly saying, because we also spoke to a couple of pro-government voices in Iran. They said that right now they can't openly say that there was any foul play, because since this incident was reported, many pro-government voices were also saying that perhaps it is very unusual Even some experts were also saying that it is very unusual that the president and the foreign minister, they were all traveling in just one helicopter, and there was no other the security staff with them. And how come out of the three, two of the helicopters with other staff managed to get back to the terrain, but the one carrying the president and the foreign minister could not make it. So there were a lot of voices there, but till the next 5 days, the national mourning has been announced in Iran. On Wednesday, the funerals, the burial ceremony will take place for the president and for the foreign minister of Iran now, and many leaders of the state are also expected to attend this ceremony there once the burial takes place. So, but now the government in Iran is also focusing on the probe, because many leaders also hinted perhaps that due to sanctions, the helicopters or which Iran has been using for the last many years, due to sanctions, perhaps they could not get the replacement or the parts which are needed to upgrade the facility there. So that is one of the reasons why the Iranian government has now ordered a fresh probe to see if there was any foul play or the technical snag was really genuine. So to find out and to ascertain the reason of the crash, the government has ordered a high-level probe.
As always, Ghazali, thanks so much for joining us with the latest update. As Iran mourns its President Ibrahim Raisi, their foreign minister and other officials killed in this helicopter crash, the world will be closely watching the implications on geopolitical equations. For deeper insight into the matter, we have with us West Asia expert and senior journalist Dr. Wael Awad. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. This unfortunate crash follows an unprecedented round of escalation between Iran and Israel, as we saw in April, sparking speculation on the potential implications for Iran's regional policy and the ongoing conflict with Israel. But, sir, in terms of what's next, is Iran likely to turn its attention inward to maintain stability and calm during the presidential transition?
Good morning, Parmesh. Actually, there will not be much of a changes in the policy of Iran internally or externally. Having said that, because of course the president or the interim government has been selected, Mohammad Mukhbar, who is very close to Khamenei, and he is also known as a conservative. So we do not see much of a changes in the caretaking government till the election on the 28th of next month. But because of the current situation in the war of Israel on Gaza and the escalation that where the Israeli prime minister tried to drag the United States and Iran into a regional conflict with Israel to involve them. So therefore, there could be a chances of escalation to continue as long as Israel continue its war on Gaza. But I don't see a major changes. However, if the investigation proved by any means that there is an involvement of another state, which could be Israel or the United States, in the sabotage to bring down this helicopter, then we may see some kind of a catastrophe in West Asia.
Right. In terms of the bigger picture then, sir, Iran's next leaders, is it almost certain that they will be hardliners? As you've briefly mentioned, they will also have to choose whether they'll continue to operate with caution in their confrontations with the United States.
Well, I think it's the election will decide who should be the conservative or the liberal in Iran. However, it is the supreme leadership which also give the approval for any president
Indeed.
to take part after the election in Iran. But I think the American pressure on Iran and the Western world have tried to isolate Iran, increasing the sanctions, causing lots of harsh among the public. So, Parmesh, all these have had an impact on the public opinion. However, I don't see a difference in the policy. Why? Because
Right.
Iran have already stated its own policy toward the outcome of this war toward the United States and the West, and they have become more active acting east. So therefore, we see much of an Iranian involvement and relation growing with a country like Iran, like India, where they have signed 10 years contract with the Shah Bahar port. And then you are also having the relation with China and Russia. So Iran is geopolitically very important, and nobody can ignore not only its own potential, but also its location, and it's a force to reckon with.
Right. So, some in Iran are also blaming US sanctions for making it difficult to purchase spare parts for the fleet. In fact, a former government official has argued that this crash would be recorded in the blacklist of American crimes against the Iranian nation. What's your take, sir?
Well, there is no doubt that there's a sanction on Iran, and there is the Iranian even called it a terrorism sanction, economic sanction by the United States. But that does not give them the carte blanche using a 45 years old helicopter from the United States to make the president travel in such kind of a harsh atmosphere and the environment. I don't see there is a failure inside Iran, actually, also intelligent failure. There's a failure in the government. That's why they have had a high-level investigation team to find out the loopholes led to this kind of a catastrophe. I'm still in, like many of the observers, look at it from the weather conditions. But there are also people who are saying could be also some technical fault, that is right, but could be also some sabotage, where it is very easy to bring down a helicopter. And if it was this much old, why the Iranians did not have a proper airplane to let their leaders fly?
Right.
And if it has happened, then what is the problem of serving the top leaders with the better sophisticated airplanes to travel? And why to go in a helicopter? That's another question.
Well, sir, thank you so much for joining us with deep insight into the matter. Ibrahim Raisi's death not only sets the stage for new presidential elections, but also opens up a new chapter of instability for the Islamic Republic. Dr. Awad, always a pleasure to hear your views.
Thank you.
Well, will there be any changes to Iran's policy? That's the big question. But Iran has a new interim president. The elections for the Iran president have been announced for the end of June. But who exactly is the man at the helm of affairs? Here are the details. After Ibrahim Raisi's sudden death in a helicopter crash on Sunday, First Vice President Mohammad Mokhber has taken the post as Iran's interim president. The announcement of the appointment of the acting president came from Iran's supreme leader. Despite his low profile, Mokhber is a seasoned political figure with close ties to Iran's supreme leader. Before being appointed first vice president, Mokhber held top-level positions within several of Iran's most influential organizations, including Sitad. In 2007, Khomeini handpicked Mokhber as the head of Sitad, a multi-billion-dollar investment fund directly linked to the supreme leader, which ordered aides to sell and manage properties abandoned after the 1979 Islamic Revolution and redirect the proceeds to charity. In 2010, the European Union included Mokhber in a sanctions list for his alleged involvement in nuclear and ballistic missile activities. However, he was removed from this list 2 years later. In 2013, the US Treasury Department placed Sitad and 37 affiliated companies on its list of sanctioned entities. Mokhber was also part of an Iranian delegation that visited Moscow in 2022 to discuss weapon deliveries amidst Russia's war on Ukraine. Reports suggest that the group of Iranian security officials agreed to supply surface-to-surface missiles and drones to the Russian military. Mohammad Mokhber will serve as interim president for about 50 days, during which he must organize a mandatory presidential election to appoint a new president. With Samia Afsar, Parmeshwar Bava for NDTV. Meanwhile, India has lauded Ibrahim Raisi's contribution as far as the Chabahar Port Pact is concerned. We have a reaction from our External Affairs Minister lined up for you. Listen in.
You know, we've been trying for almost 20 years now to have an agreement with Iran. We could have like a short-term agreement because there were a lot of problems on their side. But actually, in recent months, thanks to, in fact, the two people who unfortunately died yesterday in the helicopter crash, the President of Iran and the Foreign Minister of Iran, because of their interest and their initiative, we were actually able to finalize a long-term agreement.
As always, news and updates continue on the other side of this very short break.
Now guys, moving next towards our next story, you know कि अगर मैं इसके सामने खड़ा हूँ, if this is in the background, it's going to be about I/O because that's about this entire episode. We are focusing on what Google, is bringing in all around. A lot has come straight from Google. Let's see up close कि आखिर क्या main highlights about this event. And after that, I'm gonna sit down with someone very important to discuss AI and Google's vision for AI in detail.
Google I/O 2024 जैसे कि एक full on AI तमाशा रहा, showcasing Google's dominance in the AI world. The event featured a slew of announcements, all aimed at making our lives easier and more efficient. Google's Gemini AI stole the show with upgrades to Gemini Nano, now called Gemini Nano with multimodality, जो allow करता है to turn any input, text, photos, audio, you name it, into any output. इसे अपने एक पर्सनल AI असिस्टेंट की तरह सोचिए, रेडी टू समराइज इंफॉर्मेशन या फिर आंसर एनी क्वेश्चन यू थ्रो एट इट। गूगल सर्च को एक मेजर AI मेकओवर भी मिला है। बदले
Welcome back. China has sharply criticized the inaugural address of the new Taiwan president, Lai Ching-te, an early indication that they will likely have a rocky relationship with Beijing. A spokesperson for the government department in Beijing has said that Lai sent a dangerous signal of seeking independence and provoking and undermining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, fully exposing his true nature as a, quote, Taiwan independence worker. Listen to what Taiwan's president said regarding China, followed by China's reaction.
停止对台湾文攻武吓，一起和台湾承担全球的责任，致力于维持台海及区域的和平稳定，确保全球免于战争的恐惧。
台独是死路一条，不管打着什么幌子、什么旗号，推行台独分裂，都注定失败。
In fact, Taiwan's new president praised the democratic process in Taiwan, using the Chinese word for democracy 31 times in his speech. But joining us for a quick update, Sally Jensen, Taiwan Plus reporter, live from Taipei, Taiwan at the moment. Sally, was there anything remarkable about the new president's inauguration speech?
Not really, actually. He was very much continuing this idea of his party, the Democratic Progressive Party's pro-sovereignty, status quo relationship with China, stating that Taiwan is an independent sovereign country and that he is very aware of the increasing military intimidation that China is imposing on Taiwan. But he very much stated that he will continue the status quo. He will continue maintaining the peace and stability that President Tsai has maintained, his predecessor, President Tsai Ing-wen, has maintained over the past 8 years. And he was very much making sure that nothing that he said would intentionally provoke China.
Right.
And he also reiterated that he would take measures to make sure that Taiwan could defend itself in case of any military intimidation from China.
Right, Sally, thanks so much for joining us with that quick update. Taiwan's new president is facing an angry and deeply suspicious China that believes he is a separatist. In other news, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has been granted the right to appeal his extradition order to the US on espionage charges. London's High Court has ruled that the Australian publisher can challenge his removal from the UK to the US in a decision which extends his lengthy legal battle. But back in March, the High Court granted Assange a temporary reprieve and gave the American government 3 weeks to provide satisfactory assurances he'd receive a fair trial, have his First Amendment's free speech rights protected, and will not face the death penalty. Here's what Julian Assange's wife had to say on the verdict. And finally, step aside everyone, there's a new queen in town. Nancy Tyagi has done it again. This 23-year-old from Uttar Pradesh has stolen the limelight as far as the French Riviera is concerned. She stepped up her game for her second outfit. She actually wore a lavender-caped sari. Take a look at the process behind the creation, from fabric sourcing trips in Delhi to the final event. Well, thank you so much for investing your time in watching this edition of The World 24/7. We'll keep tracking the latest for you. Do stay tuned.